Good morning. Today's assembly isn't a story, it's just a quick talk about some people who represent our O value in proud, which, as you remember, is outstanding. And we look at this normally with outstanding owl, and we talk about people who've done wonderful things and have huge achievements and have had very full and important lives. And the people that I've chosen to talk to you today are people who've achieved these things but have done it after being told by other people that they shouldn't do it, that they weren't good enough, or they weren't clever enough, or they didn't have the skills that were necessary to achieve the things that they wanted to achieve. So we're looking at people who are outstanding people but have done it after other people told them to give up. And we have this message again and again in assemblies that if you give up, you will fail. And if you don't, you won't. So here we have our first outstanding owl. This is Thomas Edison, who's a famous inventor who invented many things that we still use today, who was told at school that he wasn't going to be very good at anything and wasn't really clever enough to be at school. If Edison had listened to the people who told him he was no good and wouldn't amount to anything, he wouldn't have gone on to invent the many things that he did invent, and we wouldn't have light bulbs, and we wouldn't have recorded music and CD players and hundreds of other things that we just use every day without thinking about it. Edison told us that one of the greatest tragedies and the things that made him really sad was that lots and lots of people give up just at the point where they're about to succeed in something. Our next outstanding owl is J.K. Rowling, who had an idea for a book and spent a whole year of her life writing the book, and when she'd finished it, she took it to a publisher. The publisher said he wasn't going to make it into a book because nobody would be interested in a story about a wizard. But she didn't give up, because that's not what outstanding owls do, and she went to another publisher, and that publisher told her the same thing. J.K. Rowling was told by 11 different publishers that her book was no good. Fortunately, J.K. Rowling eventually went to Bloomsbury Books, who thought that the books were absolutely brilliant and published all 7 Harry Potter books. I wonder if you know who this outstanding owl is. When this man was 21, he started a film company trying to make cartoons, which nobody ever did in those days, and nobody really wanted to know, and very quickly he ran out of money. In fact, soon after his company went bankrupt, he had so little money, he was eating dog food just to survive. Perhaps you know him best by his signature. It took Walt Disney several goes before he finally managed to make cartoons that would make him enough money to carry on. This is a picture of the most famous sports star in the whole of American history. It's called Michael Jordan. He's a basketball player, and he has won more titles and scored more points than any other basketball player in history. My favourite thing about Michael Jordan is that he doesn't think it's fantastic what he's done, and he talks about his failure more than he talks about his success. He says that he's missed more than 9,000 shots in his career. He says, I've lost almost 300 games, and that 26 times people asked him to take a winning shot to win the game, and he missed. He says, I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. He also said that obstacles don't stop you, and that if you run into a wall, you don't turn around and give up. You figure out how to climb it, go through it, or walk around it. Yet again, an outstanding owl who wouldn't let something get in his way. So far we've looked at 4 outstanding owls. We've looked at an inventor, a writer, a filmmaker, and a sports star, and I'm going to finish off finally with a famous Prime Minister. This is Sir Winston Churchill, who was in the government a lot of times and used to fall out with whoever was the Prime Minister at the time and had to leave the government and stop doing the jobs that he was doing, until eventually he kept going and he became one of the greatest Prime Ministers that this country's ever had. And when he was an old man, Winston Churchill went back to his school, and one of the boys at the school asked him how it was that he'd managed to achieve everything that he had managed to do in his life. And Winston Churchill turned around and said, "I can sum up my success," because that's how he spoke, in 7 words. Never give up. Never, ever give up. So there you go. Very quick stories about 5 outstanding owls who got to be outstanding owls because they kept going and kept going and kept going. And just like I keep going and telling you not to give up, that's what they did. So there you go. Don't give up.